Hey guys, to help run the forums, host the website, and travel, we've introduced a universal service fee for in-depth coverage, including this video. My goal is to be unbiased and transparent. It's a privilege to serve you. This is not an endorsement. Let's get into it. Hey guys, we're on an adventure in Seattle. We're hanging out at like a little pocket park. It's beautiful, but it's been raining all day, so I'm just gonna jump right into this and we'll do our best. We are looking at the 2019 RadMini, and this is the high step version. It only comes in black, and it's got that cool double tube, kind of a stronger, maybe a little bit more masculine style, which is cool. Some of the upgrades over 2018 is that it has reflective sidewall stripes. I really like that. They've got an integrated rear light, whereas before it was battery powered, and they've got these brake levers that have motor inhibitors, but they also make that rear light go bright, right? Isn't that cool? And there's even like a little flashing mode, which is just awesome. I rarely see that on like any electric bikes. We do have a 2018 version over here, and it's in white. They no longer come in white for the high step, but they have these really cool step-through versions over here. Pretty well reinforced. I'm actually a big fan of those. Those don't come in black. So basically for 2018, it's like white step-through, black high step. Got it? Black, white. And now we're looking at the 2018, which might still be floating around a little bit, but there is one little difference that I didn't appreciate at first. I was just kind of noticing that the disc brake caliper, it's mounted like back here, whereas on the 2019 versions, it's down here. And I was like, what difference does that make? And they said, well, you know, this cable, see how it's like kind of in the way of this rack and stuff? It's a little bit more crowded back here, and if you want to add fenders and stuff, the fender's mounting down here, and they do have that extra threaded eyelet for your own rack if you didn't want to use the Rad official racks. But they just said, you know, it's a little bit better if we mount it down here. And then they've got these conical washers that help to center it and reduce kind of the scraping noise. It's just a nicer design overall. So I wanted to point that out. Everything about these bikes has really been scrutinized. It's neat to see. I'm gonna jump back into the other one, but before I do, you can see there's a fender upgrade that's really nice. We've got the optional rear rack here with a child seat attached. I like that, and they've gone to black. So for 2019 and beyond, there's no more white racks. So I think that's it. And you can see the older light here, and you actually had to physically turn it on and off. You couldn't really control it from up there. It was totally separate, and it has those independent disposable cells, which is like, you know, you've got this really awesome high capacity battery pack. This thing is great. It's got Samsung 18650 cells in there. I think they're the 35E, so they're pretty high energy density, and it's a 48 volt pack, so a little bit higher voltage efficient on the electricity throughput, and 14 amp hours, so it's like 672 watt hours, pretty high capacity. There's a charger floating around here somewhere. Do you guys know where that is?
Yeah, it's on the front rack here.
There it is. This is Mike Radbow. He's one of the co-founders of the company. How's it going, man?
Hey, good. How are you?
Is this company named after you?
No, rad means wheel in German.
Really?
Yeah.
What? Has anyone asked you that before?
Yeah, of course. And so it's also the famous BMX movie, and also when people would see our first prototypes that did not have the word rad on them, they would say, man, that's rad.
That's rad.
Right.
Dude, I like that. I like that. So we were talking about chargers earlier in the day, because this is like a 2 amp charger. And there are some companies that have like faster chargers, 4 amp or whatever, but you were telling me that this helps the lifespan of the cells, it lasts a little bit longer if you're not like really, you know, putting energy in too fast.
The lower charger current increases cycle life of the batteries, and 2 amps is still totally sufficient for most people's needs.
There we go. Yeah, and with a high capacity battery pack, you can get these packs aftermarket, like $550. They weigh about 7.7 pounds, which is pretty good. And I feel like the size on these is nice. Sometimes you're getting these batteries that are super long or maybe kind of angular edges. This one's plastic and it's nice and smooth and stuff. Do we have the keys for one of these bikes? Maybe you can pop a battery off while I'm back over here at the bike. I like the way that they protect their batteries. You can see that the frame like wraps around. It's low, it keeps the battery weight down, and that's just good for handling and everything. It also allows you to lower the seat height a little bit. You can't get quite as low on the seat height with the high step as you can on the step-through. I think that's 29 inches for the minimum standover height. And of course, the standover height, is 16 inches, but minimum saddle height is 29. So this is good if you're someone who's a little more petite or whatever. You got the battery off? Sweet. Yeah, so it kind of slides on and locks into position. And I think coming back here to the brackets, it's got like 3 bolt points. So it's not just like 2. It's a little bit sturdier than some of the other ones.
We really try to go overkill there. The same thing with the interface fit here. And I removed one of the fuse holder caps so you can kind of see we have externally replaceable charge and discharge fuses.
Interesting.
Which is great just for serviceability and just in case anything happens, and so you don't necessarily have to send the bike in or work on with the service team.
That's a wonderful feature. Aluminum alloy frame, really appreciate that. It's going to give you some strength, and then the double tubing design is kind of nice so you don't get the frame flex. Look at the gussets and stuff. They do a really good job just trying to give you a lot of strength. 350 millimeter length on that seat post, 27.2 diameter, which is very common, so you could replace that with a suspension seat post. Rad Power Bikes does sell one. It's a Pro Max, and that gives you a little bit more cushion. I love the saddle. It's actually very comfortable. It's got a handle built in. And then with this suspension fork, this thing is just great. When you combine that with the tires and the knobs, it really just soaks up the bumps. And for smaller wheel diameters, bumps can be a bigger deal because you have kind of a higher attack angle. It just kind of rams things instead of kind of smoothing over them. So for me, this is one of my favorite folding electric bikes, even though it's a little bit heavier. It's about 67 pounds, 68 pounds if you want to get the step-thru, because I think they had to add more frame material to just keep the frame from flexing. But the point being, I'm willing to trade a little bit more weight for comfort. You can take off that battery pack to reduce it like 7 pounds, and you can take off this front wheel. It does have quick release down here. The wheels are a little bit heavier because the tires, these were done custom for Rad Power Bikes. They've got this reflective sidewall stripe, and then they've got the K-Shield puncture protection, which is great. No one wants to have to change a flat tire if you can help it. So I like that. The way that the headlight's set up by default, it's mounted to the moving portion of the suspension fork. But I'm always trying to look for like, well, what could be improved on these things? And it's really, I feel like this is a pretty good light. You know, it's fairly bright. It's not gonna hit the fender. They've got it raised up a little bit. And then they've got this knurled bolt pattern here, so it actually doesn't slide side to side quite as easily as some of the cheaper ones that I've seen. It's metal. It's really clamped down well. And then if you add that front rack, it actually mounts to the base of the rack, which we can see over here, right? So there's the headlight. It's mounted out in the front now versus down here. It would have been colliding. So it's not gonna point where you steer, but at least you still got the light, and it comes with a little extender cable, and then you can put cargo up here. They've got a bunch of different racks, whole bunch of stuff back at the website, and a lot of the bags and things have reflective sidewalls as well, or reflective fabrics built in. So I really appreciate that. An alternative for the light would have been like up here, but then, you know, if you've got something really tall, they've got this huge like pizza carrier thing, and that can get blocked. So I think they've done a good job, and I like that the rack interface is mounted to the frame because it's not gonna tip and impact your steering. So a lot of the accessories have done a really good job that way. I mean, look at that thing. It's like a mini cargo bike. Very impressed with that. So coming back to the weight, everything's done pretty well, low and center, pretty well protected, strong. We do have a telescoping stem so it can rise a little bit and give you a more upright seating position, but it's got a locking point now, so it can't overextend, which can kind of tighten these cables and even cause some disconnects. So they've created some safety or self-protection mechanisms in there, which I appreciate. And at the back of the bike, we got the slap guard. We've got this 11 to 34 tooth. This is a freewheel, but that's a great range. A lot of times I'm seeing Shimano tourney, that's sort of an entry level part, and maybe it's 14 to 28 tooth. So I like that they've got much wider here, 11 to 34. That's really gonna help you climb. And look how nice this looks. So this is like nickel plated. It's gonna last a little bit longer. It freewheels really nicely, it sounds great. And then there's that fat bike specific Bafang. It's actually designed for Rad Power Bikes and kind of labeled for them. 750 watt continuous planetary geared hub motor in the rear. Extra thick black spokes to match those rims. Just really nice setup, and it kind of hides behind the cassette now really nicely. We've got this alloy guard so you're not gonna snag your pants, and that 12 magnet cadence sensor up front. And then these pedals. So a lot of times with folding pedals, they're plastic and they're just not as tough as metal, and they're not as big. So this one's actually pretty wide. It offers good traction, and it's still folding, so you kind of push it in like this. I've been seeing the guys kind of just like kick it in, but you push it in like this. Oh, I don't want to hurt my hand. And then fold it up into that position like that. Kind of bring it back down. So they do fold up, you know, pretty compact, but it is a fat tire bike, so there are some trade-offs. You might ask yourself, like, am I trying to save space? Am I trying to optimize for comfort? Is this about approachability? And I love that the batteries you can swap between bikes. So like all of their bikes are using the same batteries. Now they're using the same drivetrain, which I really appreciate. We've got some comfort touch points up here. This is faux leather ergonomic grip with a half grip twist throttle. We got the rubber edged mechanical disc brake levers. And I'm just gonna wheel this bike over into the little bit drier area to try to show you guys the display. It is backlit, so that's gonna be kind of nice to see, and highly water resistant, so we are getting a little bit wet here. We hold the mode button, it comes to life fairly quickly, like that. I'm going to hold up and mode, and that activates backlighting. Look how nice that is. Yeah, a little light icon. We've got a 5-bar battery infographic, so 20% increments, which is kind of leaves something to be desired for me. It's not quite as precise as 10 or an actual percentage readout, but it gets the job done. And we've got odometer, so we've got that. If we press the mode button, it switches to trip distance. In the middle, we've got current speed, pedal assist level. You can take it to 0, and then it's throttle only. But I love how the throttle has like an on-off button built right in, so you can completely disable the throttle if you want to, if you're worried about bumping it. Do be careful, because basically anytime you turn the bike on, you've got full throttle power, which I like. And then a wattage readout down here. You can get into settings by holding plus and minus if you want to as well, and change some of the readouts, you know, miles per hour, kilometers per hour, wheel size, that sort of thing. This display is really nice because it's big, it's easy to see. It's fairly well protected in the center, and you can swivel it, but it's not removable. So it might get wet like we're getting right now. It might get some sun damage over time. Just kind of keep that in mind. That's one of the trade-offs. The buttons are fairly easy to interact with because they're relatively close to that left grip. And then there's a USB, full-size USB Type A charging port built right into the bottom, so you could have a light or maybe a phone charger or something. And I like to be able to do that, especially with a high-capacity battery like we've got here. And then an adjustable kickstand that's positioned out of the way. There's just so much to say about this. I mean, look at the tabs. It's mounted on the inside, so you're not gonna get heel strikes. There's plenty of room right there to pedal backwards, pedal forward without getting in the way. It's gonna support the rack weight right here. You're not gonna get pedal lock. The cables are not internally routed on this bike the way they are on the new step-thru. It makes them a little bit easier to service. Maybe they won't get pinched quite as easily either. But they've still got that support strut here, keeps the bottom bracket in good shape, along with that alloy guide. Hey Mike, can you help me just do like a little fold on this thing real quick?
Yeah, of course. So you flip the quick release lever, you pop the nub up, and then you kickstand pedals.
Look at that.
That's in half.
That's nice, man. And I liked how, yeah, there's that support arm we were just talking about a minute ago. So you're not gonna get any pinching or anything. There we go, there's the top one. And I love this, look at this, you guys. There's this real red button thing that kind of unlocks it. There's a lot of little extras here that are, to me, are kind of higher quality stuff. For a long time, I've thought of Rad Power Bikes as just like one of the best value priced e-bikes, but some of this stuff now is, we're getting into like, it's nicer. We're gonna, hopefully the rain will clear up, we'll go for a little test ride. Okay guys, from here you can see that suspension fork. It's pretty cool, you know, it's fat bike specific, it has to be a little bit wider for the front dropouts. And it's got these thicker 32mm stanchions, so that makes it a little bit stronger. We got lockout over here, so you can reduce bobbing if you're not on bumpy terrain, and dive, because sometimes when you brake, you know, you sink in a little bit. And then there's preload, so if you're a heavier person, you can preload the spring, so it's not gonna be quite as soft and mushy. It's a really good setup. And again, this thing climbs well because of the smaller diameter on these wheels, and with the knobby tires and stuff in 20 by 4 inches, they work great. I love the reflective stripes too, because it's, you know, yeah, technically this is kind of set up more like a mountain bike. You can take it on sand or snow if you really lower the tire pressure, and that's going to improve comfort too. But it's still nice to have safety, especially when you're riding a little bit lower. Probably hard to tell on camera, but that was a pretty steep hill right there, and this thing just books. I mean, it's pretty cool. Okay, and from here you can see that 48 tooth steel chainring up front with the alloy guide. It's going to protect your pants and keep the chain from bouncing off. Slap guard, 11 to 34 tooth in the rear. Really nice nickel plated cassette, or actually freewheel in this case, so it comes right on. You can repair or replace it a little bit easier. It's a great setup, and the Altus derailleur is definitely a step above Tourney, a little bit higher quality. We got the guards so that the cable won't get bumped, and you know, a lot of times these are shipped to people versus getting it in a store, which means you might be unboxing it, and it's just nice to have those sensitive parts well protected. And then the 12 magnet cadence sensor, so when I pedal, it's going to pick up pretty quickly. You know, it's not necessarily immediate depending on what gear you're in, how quickly you're pedaling, but it is as responsive as you can get with those 12 magnets that I've seen at least. So let's give it a go. I'm going to be in the highest level of assist. Very nice. We found this really cool cobblestone hill on our way here, and it's awesome because with these fat tires it feels pretty comfortable, and these bikes are so capable. That's Mike down there. He's gonna climb up again with a smaller wheel diameter and the motor being 750 watts. It's pretty capable. Looking good. I was able to do part of it and especially these like easier hills with throttle only. I only weigh 135 pounds, but that was sweet, man. And I mean, you didn't have to stand up or anything, so that motor really helps.
Yeah, it's fairly effortless. The small wheels combined with the gear hub motor and that 34 tooth chainring. I mean, you can just like creep up this stuff.
Sweet. Sweet. We're gonna trade it up and we'll do the other one. So we found this really cool hill. It's like cobblestoney and stuff, and we were riding up it earlier. And I just wanted to show this because there's such a sweet view, and with the smaller wheel diameter and everything, these bikes climb very effectively. This is an extremely steep hill. Okay, so he's not gonna just throttle only, but he's not having to stand up. You know, he's got pretty good speed. Rock on, buddy. Sweet, that's a fun one. Wheelies and stuff, it's a ton of fun. And the Knobby tires too, it's interesting because they both feel pretty, I wasn't like sliding around a whole lot with the slicks, but the knobs are definitely useful if you're in like grass or loam or that kind of thing. So you guys, I'm in assist level 5. We're doing our best to avoid the rain. I'm gonna pedal along and give you a view of this bike. It's interesting because the measurements are very similar, but there's just a little bit shorter reach, still very comfortable. You can extend that seat. I'm gonna ride around and just give you guys a view, third person. Let's do it. Mike's on the step-thru with the accessories. You can definitely hear, you know, it is a geared motor, so there's a little bit of, but not too much, not as much as I expected, and it really accelerates smoothly, which I appreciate. Feels very comfortable, very stable with those wider tires. That's one of the advantages. And then the comfort, you can lower these all the way to like 5 PSI, and you would want to do that if you're on really soft ground or sand or something like this. Is there a nice lookout up here?
Yeah. You want me to take the cam and so people
Let's
can
do
see
it. Lookout called?
Marshall Park.
Marshall Park. It's pretty, not shaking a whole lot. Appreciate that. I do like the look of the high step is kind of cool. You got like the double tube reinforced. It's got all the same adapters, got all the same lights and stuff. So it's really just a matter of, it's kind of like style, I guess. And then Knobby tires. Can you get the Knobby tires for this one if you want?
Yeah, so the tires will be available starting in January, February. So you can purchase them for either bike.
Got it. Okay, so yeah, you can kind of like swap it out. But the colors is one of the main differences. So last year you had white on the high step and no more?
Yeah, so there's only black for the high step.
Yep.
And then white for the low step.
Okay, sounds good, dude. Okay, I'm gonna close this one out. So I think that's it, you guys. A lot of fun to check out these bikes back to back and to show you all the accessories and stuff. I've gone through with a fine-tooth comb with Corey's help, thank you Corey, to get all the details, the specs, the measurements and stuff. Have fun out there, stay dry if you can, but if not, get some of those fenders, ride safe. We'll see you next time.